Hey y'all, today we have a Stradic C5000XGK that's anti-reverse is bad on it. So we're gonna open up and find out why. So I'm gonna back this off just to get rid of this handle. Now I'm gonna undo this spool by undoing that knob there. Under here we're gonna find some tabs, some just plastic pieces we're gonna pull up and remove and expose a little screw that's in there that we need a 0.9 hex screw to remove. I can tell you when you're putting these things back in, you got to be careful that you don't break through the other side when you're screwing it back in. A lot of these are plastic. I don't want to say all of them are, but a lot of them are. And you can certainly break it. And I say that because I've broken it. And that's not fun. Alright, so I pulled those off. And now we're going to do these two screws here to get that cover off. I see some scratches there, and there we go. I see some scratches there, and I see this being loose. So obviously someone's gotten in here before and tried to work in it themselves before it got to me. Anyhow, so to remove it, we're going to turn to the right for that nut. But before I do that, I'm going to actually tighten it back down and just check the anti-reverse one more time to see if it functions any better. It's quite possible they may remove something that is missing at this point and needs to be replaced, and not necessarily the anti-reverse. So let's go ahead and tighten this down. I'm going to turn to my counterclockwise to tighten it. Just slightly, I just kind of want to feel what happens. The fact that this was opened up, I'm a little more concerned about what might be going on inside there. So, hopefully there's nothing crazy. Alright, so turn to the right to pull it off. Just kind of rock that to pull it up. Nothing crazy so far. That's good. Let's undo this and see why we're having an issue with it. Those three screws that what we were removing, that one inset or set screw, or that's a little bit lower than the other ones, will remain intact. Just pull straight up if we can. Okay, there we go. So we have quite a bit of rust around there. If you can see that or not, that's super rusty. Same kind of thing will be inside there, if you can see that. I'm going to remove this plate and these screws because I'm going to reuse these for the new one. And surprisingly, this looks really good. The screws look really good as well, or look good as well. And everything else is total nastiness. All right, so let's check this out and see if this is bad. Yeah, this feels kind of funky. I'd probably replace this as well. Alright, so I want to point out a couple things here for you guys whenever you're doing your reels. I'm going to replace this, but that's not what I wanted to show you. Anyhow, the tendency for these is to kind of like sprawl open as you tighten that handle down to use the reel. It just kind of tightens over time. So if you don't service your reel, what happens is that this bearing here gets pretty tight on here, and it gets to a point where you can't get it off. This one was a little tight, so I took it off. But what I'm going to do for this here is I'm going to shave down that black mark just around here on the outside, all the way down to the bottom, just to create a nice uniform room for it. You don't want to go too low on this because obviously the tolerances on these reels are fairly tight, so you don't want to make it too loose, but you want to make sure that bearing can come off, because if you don't, then you have to replace, let's say you have to replace the bearing, you end up having to replace the main gear or the drive gear and the bearing as well, because you just can't get it off. That was one thing. The other thing was this lower pinion bearing here that goes on the bottom right here like this. It had a tendency to kind of collect water and especially if you see the upper pinion bearing getting some water collection or wear from it, chances are some of that's rolling down into this as well. So if you put everything back together, even though this bearing is good, when you start cranking the reel, there's a little bit of rasp happening, and the majority of the times it's coming from that bearing just right there. Crazy but true. It's not coming from the anti-reverse clutch or anything else. It's usually coming from that bearing right there. So you can change it if you want to. I just wouldn't change them out because they work, and it's very hard to not have any noise at all in the reel. So I'm gonna come back to you when this is put together, verify that the changes I'm making, which will be the upper pinion bearing, the anti-reverse clutch, and a couple other things that we're not going to discuss because it's not part of the video. But if you want to see a full breakdown on one of these kinds of reels, you can just type in Stradic and then TSG reel repair or something like that, and it should pop up. I'll try to add a link in the description down there and up here. Alright, I'll see you guys in a bit. Okay, so when I'm putting this stack back together, I like to add a little bit of grease, just kind of around there. That's where the screw or the set screw for that piece right there will sit. Alright. I like to protect that from getting locked in there because sometimes these are metal, like I said earlier in the video. And getting those things frozen on there is not a good thing. And it's very difficult to remove. So I'll just push that down gently as I rotate this until I feel it lock into place, which is right there. You can feel it kind of tight. So now I know I'm set. I'm just going to set the or put the screw in, and then we'll test this out to make sure that it works fine. Like I said earlier, when I get to the point of resistance, which is right about there, I just stop. I don't keep driving it in there. Alright, so remember the anti-reverse was what was bad on this. Now we see we have good anti-reverse. I also changed out the bearing, and I did change the line rod out on this as well because it seemed a little suspect on it. But that was it. Alright, so I hope that helped some of you guys out there. If it did, please hit that thumbs up button. Spread the word about the channel, and I will see you guys next time. Alright, thanks again for watching.